I have one quick announcement before we get started. I'm going to put it in chat. Michelle Hamowitz of the Mass Head Start Association shared this weekend that there is a organizational sign-on letter for Head Start. So this is not a letter for individuals to sign on. It's for organizations. And so I'm going to put the link in the chat, and you can see. And so we were doing lots of sign-on letters during COVID. And so you just have to make sure that you are authorized to sign on your organization. So, oh, it's not too long. Hooray. It is too long. Okay, so I'll cut it down. But so it's about the president's skinny budget. And they're just asking people to sign on to a letter. So you can see the links are for both the sign-on letter and to see the letter. So, and the deadline to sign on is May 15th. So let me just, I'm gonna shorten the message and then I'll put that in the chat. So we're excited to be going to New Jersey this morning on the 9:30 call. And so Tara and Alex, our first question for all 9:30 callers is for each of you to tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be in your current role. And then we're excited to hear the update.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Tara Colton. I'm the Chief Economic Security Officer at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, which is the state of New Jersey's government agency focused on building and strengthening the state's economy. I have to say a special hello to my old friend, Julie Asher, who I have known for many years, and it's just such a delight to see her on this call. So thank you for helping make that connection. I've been with the EDA about 5 years. I started a month before COVID. And
Wow.
one of the things you're going to hear about in our presentation is how childcare was not something that our agency had ever focused on before. And so when we think about the role that I'm in and the portfolio that I lead and that Alex builds and implements so beautifully, if not for the just seismic disruptions, I don't think we would have gotten to this kind of investment. But I'm also a mom of two, and both my kids have been in home-based care, group family daycare. Now they're in public after-school programs, center-based care, and I think you'll hear from me and Alex that a lot of the passion that I bring to this is because the just immense privilege that I enjoyed as a parent to be able to select the facilities that my children went to, and wanting to raise that bar for everyone. I'll turn it over to Alex.
Morning, everyone. I'm Alex Himmel, the Director of Childcare here at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. I started my career as a toddler and preschool teacher. I was an assistant director and a center director, all in Massachusetts. So I lived there
Oh,
for,
wow.
yeah, I consider Boston sort of my home, and I feel like I grew up there. But a native of New Jersey who, by way of Boston and then LA, and now back to New Jersey about 3 years ago, started at the EDA. My background is in program development, a lot around coaching and training and technical assistance models. I did a lot of work in LA around California's QRIS system. So, and to be able to come home to New Jersey and make an impact here with my now 6-year-old is pretty amazing. So full circle, and very proud to be here.
Now, Alex, we always say there's always a Massachusetts connection. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I gotta ask, are you rooting for the Knicks or the Celtics?
Of course, the Celtics.
Okay, phew. All right. Carry on.
No comment.
Exactly. I
She's
know,
lucky
I
she won
know.
such an amazing program.
Great. Well, we're excited to hear your update.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll also, I know you distribute the slides afterwards.
Yep.
So we will get these out to you as well.
Great.
So Alex and I are really thrilled to talk to you, not just about what New Jersey's doing to improve the state's childcare sector, but the framing around the economic imperative of making these investments. So the Economic Development Authority, the EDA, where we work, is, like I said, traditionally the state's bank. It was the state's agency that focused on bonds and tax incentives and real estate projects. And under Governor Phil Murphy, who took office 7 years ago, we have been charged with a much broader vision around both keeping a commitment to a stronger and fairer New Jersey, but also thinking differently about how to make investments. So we're not just focused on potential return on investment to the NJEDA. Alex and I sometimes joke because we like to give money away, and a lot of what we have traditionally done have been loans or things that require, hefty application fees. But our goal has been to make investments that will uplift the whole economy. And like I said in the opening, if COVID didn't convince you about the importance of childcare to our economic infrastructure, I don't think anything will. So we're just going to walk you through a little bit about EDA's focus on childcare. We are in a kind of specific lane within New Jersey. So we have several sister agencies that our Department of Human Services oversees our childcare subsidy program and our quality rating system. Our Department of Children and Families is the regulator, and they actually do the licensing. So we don't administer anything related to childcare. And so a big focus for us has been, where can we add the most value? And we're very proud of where we've landed. So we want to emphasize, again, as kind of a messaging strategy, the economic development angle of investing in childcare. It's something that really resonated with our governor. It's something that's resonated with legislators. And it's, of course, talking about the moral, brain science, all of those things, but at a foundational level, thinking about the economic importance of affordable, high-quality childcare. And I also just wanted to emphasize that in New Jersey, we've had advocates for childcare throughout state government. Our First Lady, the wife of Governor Murphy, Tammy Murphy, has been a huge champion of this. The majority leader of the New Jersey State Senate, Teresa Ruiz, and Congressman Mikey Sherrill have all been really loud voices about the importance of childcare. So what that has led us to is that we have in New Jersey one of the largest investments of any state into childcare facility improvements. That's the lane that EDA is focused on. And Alex is going to talk to you about what we're paying for, what we've achieved. But from a sheer almost culture shift, this is a pretty staggering evolution. And so you'll see here, and of course, I can't ignore the fact that a huge amount of federal funding came online during COVID that we were able to secure for our program. I always joke that when Alex started in 2022, we had a little over 50 million that we had secured for our program. And she actually started the week that the next year's budget was signed. And by the end of that week, we were at this 110 million figure. So we've continued to increase the funding available, again, because of this enormous investment of federal funding. I just want to emphasize that the funding we are using for our part of this, for our program, is not the Child Care Development Block Grants. It's not any of the retention or stabilization grant money. The money that we are using is the American Rescue Plan state and local fiscal recovery funds. So those are the much more flexible dollars that were given to states. And then within the state, kind of there was a bit of an internal struggle about making the case about why you should be able to utilize that for your priority initiative. And so we've been able to secure increasing amounts of that for childcare. I know our time is tight, but because we're so focused on the messaging and the reason we've invested in this, I just wanted, hopefully this will work. I just wanted to show a super quick video. It's like 90 seconds that shows Governor Murphy and how he's talking about this, because I know that as you're thinking about advocacy, some of this might resonate. And then Alex is going to talk more about how we're using the money and some of the impacts we've seen so far. So let's see. Okay. All right, we're all going to watch this ad together for a second.
3 pointers.
Okay, there.
A place called the Kids Palace looks to become an even bigger palace, as Governor Phil Murphy announces $17 million in American Rescue Plan money to go toward expanding access to childcare.
Is it the nice, good thing to do for our precious kids? Absolutely. It changes their lives. It's also cold-blooded. This allows moms and dads to get back into the workforce. It is an absolute economic development weapon. Happy Halloween, everybody.
On Wednesday, the governor paid a visit to the Kids Palace 2, a daycare and preschool in West Orange, which, thanks to nearly $200,000 in state grants, was able to install a new sprinkler system and egress out back, setting the stage for them to expand. With the new improvements, Kids Palace 2 will finally be able to accommodate infants, a service they say they get calls about from new parents almost every day.
I'm so happy that soon we're gonna have the babies here with us.
Danila Rodriguez works at the Kids Palace and has her son there with her. She says finding childcare is still a struggle for many.
Sometimes it's really hard as a parent we have to stop working because we don't have the help.
According to a recent study by Help Advisor, New Jersey has the second highest childcare costs in the nation. Governor Murphy pointed to his administration's investment of more than $1 billion into the childcare sector since taking office, while also touting, he says, record investments in K through 12 and college access.
So it's a theme. We're not perfect. It's still not cheap, but there's an absolutely cold-blooded, premeditated strategy to address everything from the littlest kids right up through college kids in a way that no other state is doing.
With the additional $17 million, the State Economic Development Authority anticipates being able to approve all eligible child care centers that apply to the first phase of its child care facilities improvement program.
So I'll stop there. We didn't expect him to say cold-blooded. He said it multiple times.
Twice.
But we like to say that we're focused. We're both. You can be both warm-hearted and cold-blooded. But you'll see again the messaging there. And so Alex is going to talk to you now about the program that we've built and what we're paying for. But what I wanted to emphasize too, just as I wrap up, is the program we've built. When we made the case to get this funding, we were focused on the sort of broader economic impact of a strong childcare system, but we were also making the case very tactically about the reasons that facility improvements can have an economic boost for the recipients of the funding. So making the case around why facility improvements can raise we call it Grow NJ Kids, that's our QRIS system, can raise the rating, which can increase the subsidy payment per child that a provider can use. We talked about how some of the providers are, and you're going to see this, under capacity, that with all this talk around childcare deserts and scarcity, there actually are spots available, but they may be underutilizing their space, or the space may not be appealing to prospective parents. So trying to, again, kind of show how far this money goes. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alex to talk about the incredible program she's built.
And Alex, as you get started, as a reporter, one of our missions here on the 9:30 call is to remove the word daycare from our nomenclature. And I heard the reporter use it. So just want to point that out.
Yes, we know. We cringed as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
We know.
Excellent.
All right. So we're actually running two phases of the program at the moment. Phase one was launched in November of 22 for childcare centers to apply for grants between $50,000 and $200,000, and proposing improvements to both exterior and interior improvements. And we'll get a little bit into sort of what we're seeing in terms of trends for those asks. In addition to the grant award that they're approved for, every grantee also is eligible for an additional 15% to carve out funds for what we call cost overrun. So anyone on this call who's done a construction project knows there are lots of things that are unpredictable. And that was the original intent, and continues to be one of the uses. We've also been very grateful that Tara was smart enough to build this into the program because with increased costs for materials and labor, we've been able to sort of protect the original projects and allow them to continue to move forward in the way that the child care providers wanted to, because they have this funding that they can tap into. Phase two, we launched just almost a year ago in the fall, which is for family childcare providers. And those grants are specifically for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and they can apply for grants between $10,000 and $20,000. We were very intentional about not building construction into phase two. The requirements and the laws behind construction for phase one was not a burden that we wanted to put on family childcare providers, but we wanted to create a program where we were still increasing the quality of those learning environments. So that's how we made the distinction here that the funds could be paid for furniture, fixtures, and equipment that would either address health and safety or accessibility issues, or improve the learning environment. So things that they would need perhaps to like increase their FICR score. For both phases, this is a grant. It is not a loan, so there is no repayment. There's no fee to apply. A couple key eligibility criteria is that applicants must have enrolled in the prior 12 months to their application at least one child receiving a subsidy. And the funds cannot supplant infant and toddler slots. That was another really critical piece to this program design. We also have a set aside for programs that are in opportunity zone eligible census tracts to ensure that the funding where it's needed most is going. And as we said, there's no fee to apply. These programs are having a major impact across the state. We're anticipating that the grants are going to lead to around 3,000 new infant and toddler slots to be created in New Jersey. So folks are like taking unused storage spaces or things of that nature and creating new classrooms, similar to the clip that Tara showed. That's exactly what that provider did. They put in a sprinkler system so that they could upgrade their childcare license and serve infants and toddlers. We think that we're going to impact about 50,000 kids, maybe a little bit closer to 60,000 when we get to the end of our applications, and improving the working environments of 12,000 members of the workforce who are going to be in cleaner, safer, more manageable environments so they can do their jobs better. And we've already approved about $125 million for about 600 providers, and that number is going to keep going up as we keep making our way through applications. So we have about 575 folks with executed agreements. We have about 59, 60 projects that have been completed. Another 250 that are in progress. Let me jump over to the eligible uses because you'll see the number one, and this has remained the number one request, is playgrounds. And so we're sort of in a sweet spot in terms of project completion, where we're going to utilize the weather over the next several months into the fall and expect that a lot of these playgrounds are going to get completed. And so, you know, by the time we hit Thanksgiving, we'll probably have 150 projects completed, which is amazing. Flooring, bathroom improvements, door improvements, painting. So a lot of aesthetics is also being requested. And we are distributing lots of money on a daily basis, over 34 million so far. We pay the contractors directly so as not to make the childcare providers sort of a fiscal middleman. So the EDA is paying those contractors directly. And it's a little more burden on our end, but we thought it was a time well spent. And okay, next slide, Tara. As part of our application process, we had providers submit narratives to us about why they wanted to do what they were doing, what were the challenges that they were trying to address, and what would happen, if they didn't get access to this funding. So these are just a couple examples from some of those narratives in terms of like the impact and the things that these childcare providers are trying to achieve. Tara and I looked at every application, every photo, we've read every narrative, and there are certain ones that stand out to us. For example, this one whose bathroom hasn't been updated in 40 years. And when you look at the pictures, you say, yes, that's true. And we each probably have a dozen more that have stuck out to us in terms of like what sort of major changes are going to be created as a result of this funding. Tara spoke a little bit about capacity and enrollment. So as part of the application process, we asked the applicants to tell us about what did their current enrollment look like and what was their existing capacity. And what has stayed consistent is the way that this data is sort of falling out, which is providers are running at about a 72% capacity rate. And there's lots of different reasons we think that that's happening. There's sort of the extreme cases where, there was an applicant who left one classroom empty because the roof was leaking, and every time it rained in a particular, literally rained in a classroom. So they would have to move kids to the empty classroom where it was dry. So that was an intentional way in which they were literally using their physical spaces. But in most cases, we've read in many, many narratives that folks are just struggling to get parents to enroll, that the environment isn't physically appealing, like, their playgrounds are broken down, or the floors are cracked and have a lot of wear and tear on them. And as someone who's not that far out from having my own child in childcare, and as Tara explained, like, we've both been very privileged that we can make the choice as to where we enrolled our kids. But every family should have the ability to enroll their kids where they want to. And that's what we're helping to do here. So as projects continue to complete, the plan is that we're going to do some follow-up data collection to see how these numbers may have changed, how have enrollment changed. Folks have mentioned to us that they're hoping to increase capacity, increase their license capacity. Has that happened? What's the impact? What's the impact been on retaining staff and things of that nature? So, and then the next couple slides, I know we don't have too much time. You all can sort of look through them, but we have some before and after photos to show some of the completed projects. This one in particular just sort of really translates well in terms of the photos. So they've been serving this community for a really long time. You can see the difference that this new playground made. I always say, I can hear the kids squealing as they run out of the door onto the new playground. So they've updated their playground. They did some work to their entrance, again, curb appeal. This makes a huge difference and allows for in inclement weather, families aren't getting soaked as they're trying to get into the facility. And And this next one, Tara and I actually went to this site, so we got to see it in person. It was a huge, big open space, and with our funding, they put up a wall to create two distinct classrooms. So you can see this was the before, and then the after. They created a classroom for preschoolers and then one for their kindergarten.
Eu vou fazer no isso aqui ele vai aumentar. Esse é o slope.
Go ahead.
So this has a major impact, and the provider was so incredibly appreciative. We learned a lot about the kids that she was serving, and it's been very impactful to go to these sites and hear firsthand from the providers what this funding has done. So, and I think they redid their floors and their bathrooms as well. This is like major difference. So super exciting. And then this is one more. They updated their playground. Huge difference. They also created a couple new classrooms upstairs in order to increase their capacity, and then and some new lighting. And yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for your time.
And I see Tara's been active in the chat with the questions. And I know I also see Teresa Jordan and Kara Wilkie from our Children's Investment Fund. So in Massachusetts, we have a housing bond bill that has the EEOST for early education and school age grant. And I guess and Donna Danette says congratulations. And I guess it is interesting just kind of that you are in government and are so can you talk a little bit about the decision to put it in that department?
Yeah, I mean the facilities improvements, traditional funding that goes to our quote unquote childcare agencies
Right.
has not been allowed to be used for facility improvements in many cases. And our agency has a lot of experience with real estate and construction. Actually, a number of the folks
Right.
who are working on our childcare program were the folks who worked on recovery from Hurricane Sandy, which was 12 years ago, but still 13 years
Yeah.
ago, but still a lot of rebuilding. And so they have that was federal funding that came into EDA, in that case from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But so there's a lot of monitoring that comes in with that. And so they knew how to do it. I think that's what made it a
Yeah.
really clear lane for us to jump into.
We've talked about that too in Massachusetts with Children's Investment Fund working with the department with the technical assistance, piece, which is so important when you think about all these facilities improvements, because most directors of early ed programs are not facilities and construction experts.
Well, and
Um,
that piece that Alex emphasized was so crucial of us figuring out a way to pay the contractors directly, because we have a ton of requirements around our funding, and especially around what's called prevailing wage, which is essentially
yep.
paying a higher. So that's a very, very important piece of the puzzle. But we don't need childcare educators to become an expert in that. We just need it to be done. And so by doing the money directly to the contractor, it ensures that outcome without making them have to try and figure out how to do this. They just get the result they want, and we get the sort of policy adherence that we need.
I see that it is 10:01. We have more questions in chat. I would love maybe we can plan a follow-up conversation
Sure.
with Children's Investment Fund. And there's some questions about like how you get the money out, how you do the application process. Because those,
Yeah.
we know there's such a huge need. I know I'm involved in the Children's Investment Fund and we always get more requests for money available. And are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how hard your style. I mean, I can stand for a few minutes, and I think Alex can too, if people are allowed
I
to do that.
can't. We
Okay,
have a
I
10
don't know what
o'clock.
your norms are.
Right.
The short answer is for a while we had more requests than we had money, but because we were able to tap into this flexible federal money, we were able to
Yeah.
sort of maneuver our way enough to say, here's how much we're going to need for everyone who's eligible. One thing I put in the chat, there was a question about like, how do you choose who gets it? So it's
Yeah.
non-competitive. So other states that have done this, and we looked at a lot of different models. We looked at Massachusetts, we looked at Rhode Island, we looked at Washington State, California. Some of them, and if we were set up differently, I might have wanted to do it this way. allow you to kind of put some policy factors
Right.
into who gets it. We aren't, that's a different way of operating. That would be more like an RFP. And
Yep.
so ours was essentially there's a long list of eligibility criteria. And if you meet
I see.
them, then you go through and it's in the order received. But we had the application open for almost a year. So
Got
it
it.
was a long path that they were coming through, and it's eligibility as a provider, and then
Uh-huh.
it's eligibility of your project and eligibility of your contractor. So once someone came through as an eligible provider, even if they had issues with the rest, that we could usually fix
Make it
it,
work.
because if their contractor dropped out or they had to change their project, we allowed that. It was if you came in and like you don't serve subsidy children, you're not going to get funding from us.
Right, right, right. Wow. Well, thank you so much. And we'd love to have the slides and we can post them in our follow-up folder. And perhaps I'll set up a follow-up conversation so we can have more time to dig into some of this stuff.
Sounds great.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much for,
And
oh, go
feel free
ahead.
to contact us.
We will. And you can come back. We know half hour is not a long time.
Yeah, sure.
Tomorrow, we're going to hear from 3 more Advocacy Network Cohort 4 participants. So be sure to come back and we will see everyone this week. Have a good day.
You.